So let's talk about trading system now. So now we've talked about, yes, you have to go and back test the system. You've shown different ways you need to, trade on a demo account, and they're very easy to configure. Trade realistically on your demo account, on a small demo account, not a big demo account. $100,000 demo account is not realistic for you. So let's talk about that trading system now. Trading system is going to incorporate things like indicators. It's going to incorporate how you look at time frames. It's going to interpret entry-exit rules, certain patterns that you're going to do, how you analyze higher time frames, and also the sentiment, the fundamentals, those types of things. So we'll talk about that detail by detail. So let's look at, the first thing I like to do, so I'm just going to get rid of this. So yes, long-term trend lines, it's important to draw those on your chart, connecting on a daily or a monthly, weekly, higher time frame to draw those, right? You can just incorporate those, and you can always keep updating them. And trend lines are going to overlap. Like, for example, here, this overlapped to here. This trend line was broken, right? This is gold chart. So major trend lines are always important. The higher time frames are more important. Trend lines do appear on lower time frames. So that's part of my trading on this trading system, is to draw your long-term trend lines properly. Don't get too caught up trying to always make them super, super perfect, but you really just want to have long-term structure. This whole structure for gold was descending. We failed to break out here. Lower moves are possible. No, and now, when in doubt, zoom out. That's another part of my strategy. Look at the longer term. So, we just got, and when you see very solid candles like this is, this is a pause, but this was a very bearish drop. Is it really opportune to short soon? Maybe. I don't know. But gold, you have to also understand the dollar moves so much of the market. The dollar moves a ton of everything. And the dollar in its strength, looking at the dollar, looking at different fundamentals, looking at sentiment, looking at, keeping track of the news and seeing what, types of events and reading up on the strength of the dollar, because the dollar is going to move everything. A strong dollar, this DXY and the gold are kind of correlated inversely. So, for example, if I wanted to, how do I compare? If I compare this to DXY, you can see here was a time when the dollar strengthened. Gold was weaker. Here was the time. This was a period of time where the dollar, came down, gold strengthened, and then the dollar went up, gold came down. So it's like these are inverted, and you can see them on many different time frames. So I'm constantly looking at the strength of the dollar, and everything. So I'll talk about, this is in itself an indicator. It's an inverse. So it's like whatever the dollar's doing, gold should be doing the opposite in theory. That's like true 8 or 9 out of 10 times. So that's one indicator that you can use that works, and that's how to use it, right? So now another one is, we always talk about RSI, divergence with RSI. I talk about that as well, where essentially the market, let me see if they can find a divergence for you. Divergence is pretty effective. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. Divergence is like, okay, so basically this was a divergence. So the price went higher, but RSI was getting weaker this whole time. So that's why we had a drop. So RSI divergences can take a while to formally play out. This trend line, once it was broken here, really was the confirmation. So we had this divergence. You can see lower, and then just a collapse. But price right here, like see right here, price made a new high, but RSI did not. So that's divergence. And we can also tell, like, yes, there's extremely oversold spots. I used to always try to go after these extreme solds and extreme buy. It's very possible you can do that. You just have to wait for confirmation. It's a little tricky. Gold, sometimes it just can it can just plummet you know, and the RSI can go to super low levels, but it's usually unsustainable for RSI on like a 4 hour or a daily or even an hourly to be below 30 or above 70 for too long. It's just unsustainable. Most of the time, gold's going to want to trend here. So that's how to use that indicator. Another indicator that I use, let me just get rid of RSI just so we can keep this, is I look at this. I go to the daily, and this works with all different types of things. Like this will work with, I trade things that are related to the dollar typically, because the dollar strength is what really, the dollar strength affects gold. The dollar strength affects Euro USD. It kind of affects Bitcoin. It will affect, all the dollar pairs. So let's look at something else. So we go to indicators. I like to add the moving average because the market does look at this. Moving average, where is moving average? Moving up, oops. Didn't mean to add that. So we'll go back, sorry. Moving, so yeah, you could just search too on here. So moving average, put two of them. Oops. And there's different settings that you can use, EMA, it's all pretty similar. So we'll do 200, and then we'll do a shorter, which would be like 50. This is pretty much what the market looks at. And then I want to make this a different color. So we'll go here and we'll make the shorter one this, and then we'll hit OK. Okay, so crosses confirm it, right? Like a cross, but sometimes it does take a while for it to cross. Like, you have a shorter term, and there's different variations. You can do, different types. You can play around with this, but typically it just helps you. Moving averages really tell you how strong a trend is. Like, you can see how long this trend lasted. The 200 moving average stood, pretty well, and against the 50 moving average. Right, once that 50 moving average is breached, and now we're getting a little bit of a cross, so it's possible gold's had a little bit of a recovery for the time being. So I look at this, but mostly on the daily. That's really where I look at the most of the moving average. So let me just get rid of moving average. So those are the indicators that I use. Another one I will add, I like to look at this one on a 4 hour, because the 4 hour is like where you're going to do most of your analysis for entry and exit is 4 hour, I would suggest. But yeah, weekly and daily are where you're going to make your big decisions. I say, like, your big decisions as to like your analysis, because let me show you a trade right now that was pretty obvious. Like, this one was like dead on. Like, I really saw this emerging, and it was from the weekly. Like, this trade we've been shorting, and this is just getting destroyed. Like, look how clear this is. I mean, look at the structure. I mean, you could see the head and shoulders, right? Like, we can see the initial push up. Then we saw the move down, right? And then we had the head right up here. Boom. Strong rejection. Okay, this was a big red flag. Boom. Then we came down. Boom. So, like, you're looking for structure as a trader. You're looking for, like, what's the story? Because people always ask, like, where's my entry? Where's my exit? Like, oh, okay, you gotta figure out the story first. So now, like, what do we have? Boom. And then what could we see? We could see down to here. Now, you always have to play devil's advocate with your trades. Like, okay, where am I wrong? You always have to say, where am I wrong? Now, what could happen is it could come up again a little bit, likely to where it made a support. And you remember, support and resistance is just areas where it's been clustered. That support, where that neckline was for that head and shoulders formation, right? And my trend lines are a little sloppy, but you get the idea. So that's what's possible. Or it could, like I said, it could just come down to here. And I'm targeting this area because this is the next major support. This is where I think this trade can come down to. And it could even come down lower. It could even come down to here. We're just looking for where on the chart. You're always looking at the chart, where is the most touches, right? Don't overcomplicate the trading. And then you can add indicators on here as well. So that's really how you understand structure. So you're looking for, like, head and shoulders is a very, specific type of pattern. And then you'll notice, like, for example, we're talking dollar pairs. Let's go look at another dollar pair. Kind of similar situation. Right, let me get rid of all this stuff that I was using before. And get rid of it. Right, so this, like here's a major spot it could break down to. It might take a while, but this is obvious. This is weak. It was rejected. Boom. Now this one is engulfing it. You see this? This is not good. This support is not really holding very well at all. And then we can go to an even lower time frame and see what's happening. Like this, pop, stop, boom. It's the support's not really holding very well. This is weak. Very weak. Now if we come back up to here, like where would you put your stop? Okay, I'd want to put my stop a little bit like here. Right? Because I don't want this. What do I not want to happen is what I'm asking myself. I don't want it to do this and break out. Right? I don't want it to break out up here. That's not what I want to do. And it would have to beat this point right here. Because that's where it started to break down. That's a resistance there. This resistance would have to break. And when resistance breaks, it has to have a solid close. Like a solid close. Like this support here, around here, broke because this candle broke. Look how solid this candle is. This was just destined to come down. Now it's getting lower. Like this candle right here broke through all these supports. All these very critical areas. This candle is just so you knew right here you could even keep shorting because it's just like, look at the size, and the bigger the candle, the larger the size, the more significant it can be. Now sometimes you can be too late to the party, like right down here. Okay, yes, it's very significant, but you're getting, this candle's getting smaller, right? So then you see this candle. Okay, you better take profit if you were up here. I hope that makes sense. But right now, yes, we are pretty weak on this trade, and you have to look at trade. Like you'll become a much better trader when you look higher time frames. Look for engulfing. Engulfing candles are fantastic candles, right? And really look where it's been clustered. Like right here, this level is where we could really break down for your USD. Now it's going to depend on, again, the strength of the dollar. So this is, if you trade dollar pairs, I look at DXY very, very intensely because so much moves. Gold's going to move this. My dollar pairs are going to move this. Now let's look at this critically on a weekly. Right? I mean, it looks still pretty bullish. I mean, we've had a double bottom, right? Look at this. Double bottom. Okay? If you don't see it, let me circle it for you. So, where we go to right here. Or, oops. Let me go. I don't want that. I want to put whatever, I'll just right here. Boom, there's the one of them. There's the other one right there. Like this, like look at this. Boom, double bottom. Now it's coming up. Now, how high do we think we can have this go? It's a little tricky to say at the moment, but this is looking pretty solid. We had a major run up. Look at the story. We had a major run up, then a breakdown. We hit here, went up, hit here, went up, strong up. So this could keep trending up. Now let's see if we can put some trend lines on this. So basically the reason why, again, we're interested in this, the dollar index, and we're looking at the dollar because this strength is going to determine if this can happen down here, or this, like if DXY gets to 100, if DXY goes to 100, this is like your USD is down here. Look how many pips you can make, right? So if you trade dollar pairs, you really got to understand the strength, and you also have to follow news events and really understand, like, okay, what's the sentiment on the dollar? Really see the trends, because dollar can trend for weeks or months or years, right? And you might say, oh, well, I heard dollars are declining. Yeah, because the dollar is the best out of the bunch. Like, yes, there's all these different, like, let me go to filter. So yes, there's all these different major currencies, Aussie, Canadian, but the dollar is the best out of the dirty bunch. Like, yes, fiat is a terrible way to keep value for purchasing power of something. So yes, it's going to get eaten up by inflation, right? And it's also going to depend on what the Fed does with interest rates, but it's the best one typically. So that's why the dollar, and this dollar index is a weighted basket of all these different types of currencies, heavily favored on the euro. So this is just saying, how's the dollar comparing against all these currencies, if that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. So that's all you need to know. So the monthly, probably going to go to like 4 hour. Let's go to 4 hour. Let me see if I can find a trend. I mean, this is almost like a cup and handle kind of, because this could make a cup and handle, because this went up, down, boom, boom, boom. Could this be the handle? I don't know. Or it could just keep going. It could just trend up like that. Or it could just come boom, like a cup and a handle. Like, it could be making the handle right now. I can't draw tonight. Could be coming down and then up like that. That's what could happen too. Make it like right here. Let me get rid of this one. Could be more like this. Boom, 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 like that. That's quite possible. But overall, I see this trending. Like, this is making a trend line, right? So this does have a trend line. Trend lines are always appearing, coming and going. So I would put it like that right now. I made a little bit of a downtrend. Like, trend lines are going to appear on lower time frames and higher time frames, right? So that's how I see it right now. You connect the lows. As long as it's making higher lows, it should be good. So we're pretty much like kind of moving in this channel right now for DXY, right? Let me move this over here. So it's about here, right there. It's a pretty solid channel. So I could keep moving up within this channel. Now, if it like breaks it a little bit, that's not a terrible thing for it. It would have to like completely break. Like, here's the support. Like, support's around here. Like, this is a major support area. So I would say, as long as the DXY stays above here, I think it has a shot of Euro USD keep breaking down. I think that's pretty much where we stand right now. And you can even see, that's how I see it. And that's really, I think, what's happening right now. Let me see if I can zoom out and see anything else, because you have to look at these things by all angles. Everyone wants to like have magic entries and stuff. Yeah, that connects. So it could do this. And where could it go? We got to zoom out again. Remember, you're going to be doing a lot of zooming in, a lot of zooming out. On the monthly, like this, I know I drew all this, but you can see this green that we're on is engulfing the previous one. This is looking pretty solid. I think we have a legitimate shot to break out, as long as, yes, this now let me also show you, like, now some may interpret, because every trade, the market's just a consensus of psychology of the situation. Like, some traders are going to see this, some traders are going to see that, right? So yeah, that's it's kind of where we see. So it's starting to break out of this formation right now. It's making right here, and it doesn't really connect. So this is pretty much how I see it. This is what it's making. So that, yes, it could break out. It's already kind of starting to break out. I say once DXY clears this old resistance at 93, where it broke down a few months ago, right here at this top, I think we'll be in really good shape. We could even make like a W, like boom, boom. Let me get rid of this. Let me just show you, boom, 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 up, right? We can go to 100 maybe. But yeah, this is looking pretty decent for the dollar for the while. So I think for the next few weeks, maybe even a few months, the dollar could keep trending up. And that's also understanding the macro events and the news events and the strength of the dollar, and the fact that the dollars could have rising rates because of inflation. Because inflation, you're going to see the Fed and talking, and the Fed, if they hint at higher rates, then yes, this will make the dollar go up. The euro, the rates are lower than the dollar, so the dollar's more attractive. So then there you go. And it may be higher than the Australian dollar too. So that's really how you have to do that. And then we'll talk a little bit more about entry and exit in the final one, and we'll go into like the final details. But this is just how you do your analysis. So I hope this really gives you perspective.